Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the last Freedom Thinking Community Group before Christmas 2024. The date is the 23rd of December 2024. So not far off 2025. It's coming around quick. It seems like no time ago I was sat up in Scotland for New Year up in Aviemore and picking chaga and walking and chilling. It was lovely. It's just gone so quickly this year. So welcome everybody. Thank you to everybody who's managed to make it tonight. Lovely to meet a couple of new people as well. So thank you so much. Okay, this is Freedom Thinking Community Group. We do this via donation. So if anybody would like to make a donation to Freedom Thinking to help Jenny and I out with our work and keep us going, you can do a donation via PayPal, which is info@freedomthinking.co.uk. And if you wish to get in contact with us, please get in contact with us at info@freedomthinking.co.uk. And our website is freedomthinking.co.uk. So I think that's it. That's another thing I want to say. If you're watching this on Catch Up and you wish to make a donation, that would be wonderful. Thank you so, so much. And also, if you're watching on Catch Up and you're not able to make it on the night, but you want to, you wish for us to talk to a certain subject, you have a question or something like that, can you please put it in the comment of one of our videos? I'll try and keep an eye on it. I'll try and keep an eye on the comments, and we'll try and speak to it. We'll try and speak to it because we know that a lot of people watch these afterwards and they can't be there on the night. So if anybody has questions that they'd like answering, just or wish to for us to talk to something, then please get in touch. Just let us know. If anybody tonight has anything that they wish to discuss that's a bit personal, that they don't really want outside the group, they don't want to go on YouTube, please just say, Dave, can we pause the recording, please? I just want to talk about something. We'll do that, and then we'll fire up the recording again once that part of the conversation is gone. So if anybody wishes to talk about something a bit more privately, then please just shout up. Hopefully Jen's coming down, all being well. She's putting Lucia to bed. When I left, Lucia was feeding and dancing at the same time. So she was full of beans. So good luck, Jen. All right. So I think that's me businessy side out the way. Oh, if anybody wants to get in touch with us for our bank details, prefers to make a bank donation, just contact us at info@freedomthinking.co.uk. All right, let's make a start. Welcome, everybody. My name's Dave Ellerate. Yeah, I have no idea where the hell tonight's going to go, but I never do. But I love that. I love the fact that we get to just be present and just see what comes up in the moment. So I would like, if possible, if anybody's anything that they would like to share, anything that they'd like to speak about, any questions that's come up for people, any reflections, any observations, is there anything that is going on for people that they would like to start off this conversation tonight with? Jack?
Yeah, I'd like to say, because I've been listening to your YouTube videos quite a while now since Colin mentioned you, and I must say, I think I've become calmer in myself.
All right.
It's definitely, changing your thinking and just listening to what you say. It's definitely something that's changed in me.
Nice, Jack.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
So
I will
how do you go? Sorry, carry on. Sorry.
one of your retreats eventually. It's just clashed with other things recently, but I will make one.
Yeah, we need to get one organized actually. So we're thinking about February.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thinking about sometime in February. Yeah. Don't know where it'll be, but we'll need to figure one out. And yeah, no, that's cool. Have you how much time have you spent around this kind of conversation?
Not that much really. It's just listening to your YouTube videos, but I have been listening to them while I've been doing other jobs. I must say I haven't been concentrating on them because of time. But then I've come back and then listened to you again silently when I've not been doing things, and I think it's definitely had an effect. Yeah, definitely.
It's funny,
Yeah,
love.
no, that's why I'm here.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate it. I have no idea. Sorry,
Trying
love.
to do what I'm thinking is
Yeah,
now I'm living more in the moment and enjoying that moment instead of worrying about what I've done or what it's going to be.
that's nice.
Yeah, it's good.
See, that's
Thank
where,
you.
that's literally where it's at. You
Yeah.
know, if people want to have a nice life, try and find presence. Just try and find where you are here and now. You know, because I forget who the hell he said this, and I'm going to completely ruin it anyway, I'm sure. But oh, I can't remember what the hell it was. It'll come to me at some point, probably next week. But 99.999999998% of all our problems, our real suffering, is created through the illusion of time.
Mm.
You know, it's worry, future based, anxiety, future based, grief, past based, resentment, past based. Um, quite tired tonight, so but you get the picture.
Yeah.
It's like all these emotions that we tend to feel, you can link them to time. And one of the things that I tend to find myself doing now is I find myself catching myself when I'm getting lost in time. And when I become aware of it, you see, to me, the whole thing about this is awareness. And awareness is just noticing. That's all it is. You know, neither Jenny nor myself nor this conversation in and of itself is based on any form of technique. Just based in starting to understand the nature of life. You know, the very thing that we are experiencing, starting to get everybody, like I have to say, people are mesmerized by their experience, but they have no awareness of its laws. They have no awareness of its I didn't, of it's like its principles, you know, its constants. We live in the experience of this reality, but we have no concept or realization into the notion of its illusory nature. And it's only when we start to discover the illusory nature of this livingness of life. I'm just gonna mute you one sec. Sorry, Jack, I'm getting a feedback. One sec, love. It's only when we start to wake up to the illusory nature of this very reality that we're experiencing now. And when I'm talking about this illusory nature of this reality, I'm not talking about anything outside of ourselves. You know, when we start to realize that we are creating reality, it's an illusion, but it's also real. It's a real illusion. I remember having a client come round and friggin' hell did he argue with me on that point. You cannot have a real illusion. Quantum mechanics is something the intellect cannot comprehend. You know, and this conversation even goes beyond quantum mechanics, because this conversation is actually going to the point. It's pointing, it's guiding people, hopefully, in when what we're pointing to is something that comes before the creation of any subatomic particle. You know, but even those subatomic particles behave so much differently to the greater big wide world that we get to experience. Yet the greater big wide world is created by the subatomic particles. So, you know, when we start to look into quantum physics, you start to realize that all possibilities exist all at the same time. And And when we start to just, we don't need to understand any of that. We don't need to know that. We don't need to look into quantum physics or anything. I do, because I find it fascinating. But what is beneficial for people is when they start to actually pay attention to the nature of reality, and when they start to find, like I said, its laws and its principles. At that point, people start to wake up. There's something that takes place within people, Jackie, and you just said to me just before, I don't know, I just seem calmer. I love it, because it's like, I'd ask you the question, and what have you done to make yourself feel calmer?
Yeah, listening to you and making me think more, I think, and living more in the moment, enjoying the now,
It's
I'd
quite
say.
simple then, was it?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Simple,
Yeah,
more simple than you imagined it could be.
same for me.
Yeah.
I was somebody who spent a long time trying to heal myself, trying to fix myself. And when I listened to Sid Banks, who was the man who articulated the three principles, um, when I listened to him, I had an experience that just how simple life actually is. And the moment we go and try and put it into words, it becomes complex. And it becomes like, because then we filter it through our belief system. We don't know that's what we do. We don't realize we filter everything through our belief system. It's called the ego. We channel it, we funnel everything through our ego, and we measure it. And we measure it on a truth scale, on a right wrong scale. We measure it on a possible impossible scale. We have this bullshit filter, and we kind of measure it through that as well. And we're constantly measuring everything that we experience, but in actual fact there's nothing really to measure, because what's actually taking place is we're experiencing the causing and the creation of reality right here, right now, continuously. And the measurement is a consequence of that. But we pay more attention to the consequences than we do to the origin. And it's when we start to notice, we start to become aware that there is actually an origin within our being. It is our being. When we start to become aware of our origin, the rest of this after effect, this consequence, starts to quieten down. Because there's something that happens when we start to wake up. There's something that starts to happen. Life becomes simpler, and we tend to just become nicer. People just become nicer people. I love listening to Dan's forgiveness stories and stuff like that. And I love listening to Dan's stories about his women that pissed him off at work, and all of a sudden they're best friends and WhatsApping each other. And I love this. I love this conversation for that. So yeah, this I say this pretty much every single week, but to me, this is the most important conversation that we should be having on this planet right here, right now. This is the conversation about the nature of who and what we truly are as human beings. We're running around like fucking idiots on the, excuse my language, like idiots on this planet, doing all kinds of bonkers things. Species of creature, this species of nature running around so lost. Why? Because it doesn't even know what it is. It doesn't know what a human being is. It doesn't know what reality is. It thinks it's subjected to reality subjects itself upon it. It believes that. And so as it does that, it feels the need to control everything, control them, control this, control that, control people, use people, abuse people. All because we've misplaced reality. All because we never knew who and what a human being actually was. We never stopped for a moment to go, we didn't make us. We're not one of our great inventions. There is some deep intelligence that underpins life itself. And yet I have intelligence. I am intelligent. So it's like I get to create reality. That is my gift. It's my gift as a human being. I get to create reality. That is the conversation that must be being had on this planet right here, right now. Now's the time. People are ready. People are ready. Many people have dropped religion, which would kind of put God outside of themselves. I'm not banging religion. There's truth in religion. So much truth in religion. I remember this time last year going to church for choirs. Sorry, Tina. For carols and listening to the creation story being read out. And if you listen to the story, it sounds like a story, but when you get ears for the truth, I could hear the truth in it. I spoke to the vicar and said, I love that. Can I have a copy of what you just read out? Like the truth that was read out in that church. But I'd only ever heard the stories before. But when you touch that place within yourself, as Jesus said, when you give birth to that which is within yourself, what you draw forth will save you. When you give birth, there's the virgin birth right there. When you give birth to that which is within yourself, what you draw forth will save you. If you possess nothing within, if you haven't found that space within yourself, that creator, that the realization that you are creating reality, you are creating your entire whole experience of life. If you haven't discovered that, the absence will destroy you, he said. Well, I've been on both sides of that coin. I've lived with the absence and I've discovered. And what I drew forth saved my life. It was absolutely one of the most accurate statements I've ever read. What we draw forth from within ourselves, it doesn't exist outside. Our happiness, joy, peace, everything, nothing that we strive to find in this world exists outside of ourselves. Everything we are striving to find, we already have. We're made with it. We're made of it. Our job is to realize it. Realize we have everything we need already. We are it. That's what a human being is. A human being is a being of infinite potential. A feeling being that can create heaven or hell for itself. And as we start to wise up, we start to leave the hell behind and we start to create more heaven. All through the knowledge and understanding of how reality is born. Reality that we experience is not outside of ourselves, it's within ourselves. It's created from within. And there is no escaping it. You cannot step out of it for even a moment. Wherever you go, there you are. You go to sleep and you dream. Where's this dream coming from? It's coming from within us, coming from us. I've been having the most vivid dreams lately. Amazing dreams. So vivid, the detail and the textures and like in my dream, I've been astounded at the detail that I've been experiencing in my dreams. I've been aware of I'm dreaming and I've been astounded at the detail and clarity of that reality. This consciousness stuff is something that I have very little knowledge about. But the little tiny fragment of information that I've received has absolutely changed my life. And it has put me in a position of awe for all life. And when I'm in awe, it's wonderful. There's no suffering. There's just awe. When I'm in awe, there's no judgment. There's no condemnation. There's just a recognition of the miracle of existence itself. And an appreciation for the fact that we all get to be here. We get to share this time on this earth together. What a gift. Welcome, Louise. Welcome, Tina. Thank you so much. Welcome, welcome, Mother. All right. Jackie, thanks so much, love. Thanks for kicking us off. I really appreciate that. But I love the fact that you just feel more peaceful. That's where it's at.
Yeah, I must say though, I never seem to remember my dreams.
The only reason I mentioned it is because I've started to remember my dreams. I don't always.
I've been told to get a little notebook by my bed, and as soon as I wake up within so like 3 minutes or something, write it down, but I still can't recall it.
No, see, if I did that, I'd wake up too much and I like my sleep too much.
Yeah, it'll come. I trust it.
It's perfect as it is.
Yeah.
You know that this is something that dream journaling thing, great for some people. And this is the thing about this conversation. I don't want to sound like a smart ass, but there are things that help some people. And those same things might not help another person. But this conversation is a fact no matter who we're speaking to. It doesn't matter who we're speaking to. If they are a human being and we're speaking to them, they are creating an experience of life via thought. They're creating all their emotions via thought. You see, and that's the beauty of this conversation. It's not just oh, this works for them and it doesn't work for them. Here comes my guest speaker. This works for them and it doesn't work for them. You know, somebody said to me, I'm glad you found something that worked for you. And I didn't really want to go into, oh, it works for you too. I just went, thank you at that point. But it works for everybody. There's no escaping it. You cannot escape this fact. That all the emotions, the happiness, the depressions, the anxieties, the worries, they're created from thought. You know, and I remember having a conversation with Linda Ramus, a lady who she was the first person to get something going in the US prison system.
No, she oversaw programs and got funding for programs within prisons and schools in Santa Clara County.
That'll do. I remember talking to her about the principles. She was somebody who spent a lot of time with Sid, and she said, to be honest, I'm not bothered about any of that. She said, I'm interested in what is it that makes people change? What is it that creates change in people? She said, because it doesn't matter whether it's hypnosis or whether it's CBT or whether it's, what other things did she go through?
NLP,
counseling, all that stuff. Meditation. She says, the simple fact of the matter is people change when their thinking changes. She said it's that simple. Nobody can experience a change of being state without a change of mind, without a change of thought. This is an inescapable fact. And it takes all the power from outside of ourselves. It takes all the power from people, governments, money, weather, whatever it be, and it puts it firmly back in our own power. It puts it firmly back within ourselves where the power truly belongs. What a gift. I just want to welcome my guest speaker. This is my wife, Jenny Ellaway. All right.
What's the conversation been so far?
The conversation was Jackie, she's actually just dropped off. She's back in. Jackie was just saying that she has been watching our videos and has started to experience more peace.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, friend of Colin's.
Sorry, I lost you then. It froze and I don't know where you disappeared, but I'm back now.
So, welcome back, Jax. All right, anybody else? Anybody else got anything they wish to talk about?
And save it.
I'll have a bash.
Go on, Daniel-san.
Right, so I was listening to a podcast yesterday,
Have you ever thought of doing a podcast, by the way?
Yeah.
Like like uploading it like on Spotify and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. We just need to get around to doing it.
Yeah, I
Very
think
good idea.
be pretty cool. That. Anyway, it's and I don't know who it was because it was on like my algorithm, like it sort of popped up and I started listening to it, and the majority of it I switched off to, apart from this one bit which I thought was quite strange, and it was kind of like new, but I kind of understood, if that made sense. And this woman, she was just saying about how the mind and thought is automatically wired. Well, not automatically wired, but she said something along the lines of that we're prone to look at the negative in everything because that's just how we see the world. And she said the way that she described it was that if you have a box of kittens, say, and in that box of kittens you put a snake, you're always going to look at the snake because that's the more, that could be the danger to the kittens, say. But how do you know that snake's not friends with the kittens? That's what she was saying. She was saying, like, why have you automatically put like a negative impact onto a fresh thing just because that's what you've been told is right? Like, it's like, and I think the point that the point that I got from it was that because we think of a scenario to be so negative, but we don't know why we think that. It's as if like a negative thought to me. No, sorry, it's as if a negative thought is the absolute like truth, and it's the absolute reality. And she said it just stands to reason that the only reason why that if there was a box in front of you with kittens and a snake, and the reason why that you would concentrate on the snake is because people have told you that in the past they are potentially dangerous. And I thought to myself, I was like, I get that because I went through years of thinking, oh, do you know what? Like a couple of scenarios, right? This is the dead truth. Like this is absolutely my own reality. And now, because I don't think like that, I understood what she was saying because I thought, yeah, do you know what? Like there's been plenty of scenarios in my brain where I've thought to myself, like this is the truth. This is like this snake that's in my life is the worst thing in the world. But why is it? It's not really. It's only because that's what I've taught myself, and that's the way that we're supposedly wired to think. Because the negatives are always more stronger than the positives, I think. Before you kind of have your awakening, if that makes sense. But yeah, I thought I'd share that because when I was listening to the podcast, it kind of sort of clicked something with me, and I sort of married it to how I feel now. Because it was true, the way she said, you always do think of the negative to be the absolute truth of any scenario. As soon as you feel any sort of anxiety, it's like, right, that's it. That's how I'm going to feel about this. But that's only because from my own personal experiences, that's what I trained myself to think, that this anxiety or this like these physical symptoms are the truth, when it's not really. It's just how I'm reacting to a thought. That's it, really. That's what I picked
You
up
lucky
on
man.
that. Yeah.
You lucky man. Do you respect?
Well, you seem like you've got a lot of notes you've taken. So I'll let you
I've
go
actually
first.
just scribbled that stuff I can't even read myself, to be honest. Do you understand?
I was going to let you go.
All right. I think what you're describing here, Dan, is again why this conversation is so important. If somebody is wanting to have a nicer life, if you don't want to have a nicer life, it's probably not that important. But if you do want to have a nicer life, then it's probably a really important place to start to understand why we like start to become aware of our biases, and I often say this, I don't know why it is humanity ended up in the state of being where it placed more faith in everything going to shit than everything turning out wonderfully. I have got absolutely no idea. I've done it myself. You know, I now live with an awful lot of faith. I have a lot of faith in my life. I'm a man of faith. I'm not a man of religion in any way whatsoever. I'm a man of faith. I have faith that everything is turning out for wonderfully. Why? Because when I look back at my whole entire existence in this incarnation that I can remember, I've gone through some seriously frigging hard times. Times when I thought it's all going to crap. The whole world's going to crap. I have nothing to live for. And it's all turned out beautifully. You know, and when I hit those hard times, which sometimes I do, sometimes I hit these hard times in life, they come along, I'm a human being. And when those hard times hit, I now look for the silver linings. What have I learned? What have I learned? What can I glean from that suffering that I've experienced? What can I learn from that? What's that teaching me? Because I know that if I gain insight into that level of suffering, into whatever's creating, like whatever story I've got running, that's creating, the story is creating my suffering. If I can gain insight into and notice, oh, Dave, you've got a little bit of ego about that. You've got a bit of a story running about that. If I can see that, I start to see through my illusions. You know, at one point in my life, when I was 33 years old, I got to see through the whole of life as the illusion. I got to see the illusion of life fully. No, nothing at all hiding it, nothing at all. And when I came back into my present state, being in my body, I was a totally different man. A version of me died, left, completely vanished. I've never seen that man since. But from that point on, it wasn't like I stopped creating. I still created, and I still created, as I still do to this very, very moment, because I'm a human being and I'm alive. I create these experiences of life. But the difference that I have now is I have a perspective like yourself, like you're describing here, Dan. You too have this perspective of life now where you have started to become aware of, I am creating this. If I'm experiencing it, I'm creating it. You know, and in doing so, we stand in our power. Not in a positive thinking, oh, stand in your power kind of way. I'm just saying, literally, we stand in our true power. We are starting to unmask our true power. And then you said the negative is more powerful than the positive. But you did then clarify that. That was certainly before you had your awakening. Yeah. We do tend to think of the negative as being more powerful than the positive. We tend to think of it as being more realistic, to be honest. I know plenty of people who think, yeah, it's more realistic that, you know, everything's kind of shit than it is that everything's kind of perfect. But in reality, you know, it's both the same thing. That creates happiness and joy is exactly the same thing that creates suffering. It's thought. It's both the same thing. So they have identical power. And that power is none. The power lies within the being who's thinking. Now, I have many, many thoughts that I don't act upon. And I say this all the time, but the suicide thought. Biggie, the suicide thought. How powerful is the suicide thought when the person sat down in front of you telling you that I had the suicide thought, I've had the suicide thought. Well, it clearly wasn't that powerful because you're still here and you're telling me all about it. If that thought had any power, you'd have been powerless over that thought and you would have acted upon it. But there was obviously this other factor involved. Otherwise, you didn't just blindly act on it. There was this discerning thing going on, which is ourself. You know, I have all kinds of mad, illegal, immoral, bonkers thinking going on. I have insane thoughts, but I don't act on them. You know, so no thought in and of itself actually has any power. No feeling is indicative of anything outside of our being. It's indicative of what's going on within our being. So this again is the most important thing we can start to uncover is the nature of reality, the nature of experience, because it's the only thing we are ever experiencing. Julie is ironing. I can see her ironing right here, right now. You know, but the experience of ironing is taking place within herself. Like me observing Julie ironing is not outside of myself that I'm experiencing. It's within myself that I'm experiencing that observation. I can never step outside of myself. There is no outside of myself. And we trust our feelings as a guide is another thing I pick up from that. You know, we tend to think our feelings are, like I just said, they're indicative of things that are going on. They're indicative of circumstance. We come across a circumstance, we get a feeling, and we have this habit of going, oh, I don't know. In some respects, I've learned to trust my feelings, and in other respects, I've learned to let them go. Now that is where that's where I'm discerning. But that is a decision that takes place within myself. So there's been times when, like, a man tried to rob me in South Africa, when what came to me was, love him. Love this man. All right, I love this man. And I was kind to him. And all I felt was love for this man. A little bit of apprehension, admittedly, he was trying to rob me. But there was more love. I went with that. The old me would have chosen violence. Would have chosen fight, would have chosen anger, would have chosen, how fucking dare you decide you're going to step to me. But thankfully, that wasn't what came to me in that moment. And that again is where I have faith that we all have everything that we need in every single moment of our life. But I also think what you're talking about there, Dan, is just habits. It's just habit. A habitual way of seeing the world that becomes tiresome and boring. It becomes strain, it becomes difficult, it becomes predictable. And for anybody who wants different, the only way we can have different is via insight, is via realization, is via noticing. When we start to become aware of, freaking hell, I have this habit of whenever this happens, I behave like this. For example, the other day I was speaking, a lady rung me up and I was chatting away to her and she said, but you know, whenever I'm speaking to that person, she said, I can't help but get angry. I just can't help it. It's what I do. She said, whenever I'm faced with these kind of conversations, I just get angry straight away. I said, no, you don't. She said, I do. I said, no, you don't. I said, I've seen your daughter be very difficult. I said, but you don't speak to your daughter in the way that you speak to that person. I said, so you are perfectly capable of having a conversation in a decent way with a human being. The only problem is you have this habitual story that you cannot have a conversation without having an argument. But you clearly can, because you can do that with your daughter. So you can do it with this other person as well. I needed to hear that. I needed to hear what I said. I was grateful that that insight came, because I needed to hear it as well. We have these programs, we just run them. But this is a conversation about awareness. It's our awareness that guides us, really. It's our awareness that is the discerning factor. It's our awareness where our free will lies. Am I aware this is bollocks I'm talking right now? No, carry on. As we start to become aware, we start to have more options. It's, for example, if I am not aware that somebody is going to rob me, not a lot I can do about it. However, if I am aware that there is a man crossing over the road coming up alongside me, I have options. But it took awareness to have the options. Without awareness, there's no experience. Without the experience, there's no reality of that. You see, the only time we get to experience any reality of anything is when we become aware of it. The awareness is who and what we are. The reality that we experience lies within us. It's created within us.
Yeah, I think the way that I've heard it and then listening to you, Dave, is that the movement towards love and everything that comes from love, which is forgiveness, compassion, presence, everything associated kind of with that, the true meaning, I think, or the direction of love, it feels like that's closer to the truth. And for some reason, when we get negative and fearful and angry, it is louder. So we think it has more truth or more reality to it. But I feel like that's the shift that happened in me after coming across the principles, is knowing that that's actually taking me further and further away from the truth of who I am. It's taking me further and further away from the truth of the situation or the circumstance in front of me. So I think I use that as my guide now. Like if I'm getting intense, if I'm getting agitated, if I'm getting that feeling, I know that I'm really caught up in a story, that I'm getting lost in the unreality. And those moments of presence, I think moments of presence can sometimes feel like the state of no thought, because you're just so present, and then what comes to you, you're hearing something fresh and new because it's perfect for that moment, because that's where you are. And like my mum was talking to me today about some of the stuff she's been seeing on the news, and she said, we often have this conversation, I mean, you and her have had it many times, this idea of the source or creator or what comes before as being loving. But she said, but there is evil on this planet. There is evil on this planet. And I said, well, people do evil things. But do you think somebody is born or inherently evil? Have you ever seen a baby that just seems evil? Or is evil something we have to learn? Is evil something lost? Is evil something of a creation? Because if we're in creation, we're not in the truth. We're in an after effect. We're in the illusion. And as we were speaking, I was seeing it more and more like, oh no, the evil that we see is lostness. It's pure lostness, lost in the illusion, so lost in the illusion, there is no awareness that there is something deeper, there is something creating, that we have totally identified with ego, character, physical world. And I think it's such a gift, like you said it as soon as Dan had finished speaking, what a gift, what a lucky man to have seen. When we start to get eyes and ears for how lost we have been and how our life looks when we are lost and how we behave when we are lost, and you start recognizing our own bullshit and not taking it so seriously, that's the gift. And I think that's an endless thing. Like when you were talking, I kept having the memory of, I don't know if you said it when you came in, but just before when we were having dinner, did you mention?
I have mentioned that, yeah.
Like the quickness of it all, but Dave giving this ear a bit of feta and then it being the wrong bit of feta and then her just chucking it back. As I was getting her to sleep, I just kept nearly bursting out laughing because I was like, she's got a bloody good arm on her.
She's
Like,
got a good arm.
and it was such a good shot. So I kept nearly laughing. But with Lucia, like today, she has pushed my patience. I've still been patient. I haven't shouted at her, but she has pushed me. I had no sleep last night. But I think if another human being acted like she has acted today, I would have definitely lost it with them. I'd have been like, enough, like I'm not doing this anymore. But you see the innocence in a 2-year-old who isn't very well. She's teething, she's tired. She's had a boring day. She's been doing stuff with me and my mum that she didn't really want to be doing. And I can see innocence in that. But when it comes to people that we think should know better, we lose eyes for that. And we think people should know different, they should do different, they should be different. So then we get judgmental and then we have to live in the experience of that judgment. And that idea creates this illusion that things should be different than what they are. And I've seen it more and more, like when we think life should look different than how it's showing up, we suffer it. The potential for change is always there. The potential for difference is always there. But what is showing up is what's showing up. And if we don't fight it, it is just what is. And then you find humour, you find freshness. You start seeing the habitual story play out. And I think I've loved it tonight. Seriously, I got to the point where I was like, oh my God, I actually don't think I can do anymore. I've had this little high-pitched voice whinging at me all day about everything. And it's the same conversation generally, like, can I have a baby bell? Can Raya have a baby bell? So the doll's not going to have another baby bell because you open it and it doesn't get eaten. And can Raya have one? No.
Ray has never eaten a baby bell to this day, has she?
Well, she's had some shoved in her mouth.
She had some
It's
shoved in her mouth,
disappeared. I
that's
don't know where it's gone.
Dog ate it.
And then, can Raya have a dress? And can Raya have a bow? Can she have one of those?
It's so cute.
It's so cute.
So
But it
cute.
gets to the point where you're like, I can't really
We
buy
might
a
as well have
£30
two
dress.
kids,
or
mightn't we?
a doll.
Yeah.
But it's the innocence that I see in her. And it's the creation of character and ego happening seamlessly. She doesn't do it on purpose. Like today, she'd got these tiny crackers from Sainsbury's that she wants to give everyone tomorrow. And the person had to scan it. You have to put it through the scanner. Absolute breakdown. So we've been through the scanners so many times now. So she knows that you give it to the person, they scan it, it gets given back to her. She has a meltdown 95% of the time when we have to do that. So she hasn't, for whatever, the learning hasn't taken place yet. But it's, if you saw an adult do that, you're like, for God's sake. Whereas with her, I'm like, oh, bless her. And I think that's the thing you can start recognizing is we're all that. We're all that. Whatever we're getting caught up in the moment is our everything. Someone else's reality is their everything in that moment. So however we're seeing it, it's their everything. And I think then it settles us down so that our come from changes. And I think it changes the situation. It diffuses things. But I think that idea of starting to see the unreality of negativity and judgment and hate and fear and all of those things, you come back to singular. So that's the direction kind of for our mind, is we start to notice where negativity takes us. How far from source have we gone?
Can you just talk a little bit more to what you mean by unreality?
This that we're experiencing now.
When you
Life.
said the unreality of our suffering.
But it's the story, it's the character. And it's not taken away because people suffer. And I think that's one of the things I've said to you before, like if you see Luce getting really, really upset about something seemingly ridiculous, to her, that's the same as you getting really upset about finances or
Tax returns.
the ban breaking down or whatever it is.
Love you.
Just don't mention the word
I
tax.
know.
But it's the same thing happening. So we see it in other people. Like we can see the unreality, we can see the made up nature of their creation or their suffering or their drama or their story. But when it's our story, it's harder to see because we're fully within it. We're fully creating it. It's our everything in that moment. So I think you can go easy on yourself and other people because you're like, wow, this life stuff looks really real.
Mm.
It looks so important and so life and death.
I remember, I kind of remember, I was saying to Jen the other day, I remember the day I woke up. I remember the morning. I remember watching the Sid videos, getting a bollocking off Sue, who rung me up, gave me a bollocking for not watching any Sid videos for 9 weeks. I remember driving. I remember feeling the need to pull over my car. I remember getting out of my car. I remember seeing the jack door. I remember the experience. And then I remember driving and being told stuff within myself. I've got no recollection of the rest of that day. I remember my dad coming home. I remember him saying, "How are you doing, son?" I went, "I'm really good." And him kind of going, "What?" And that's about all I remember of that day. But what I also remember is the very simple, like Jackie was talking about before, the very simple nature of it, realizing the very simple nature. And I was at the point of trying to figure out where I was going to commit suicide so I didn't ruin a place for my family, so that I didn't want to do it somewhere. These were the thoughts that were going through my mind. And this was my plan. This is what I was going to do. But then waking up and realizing the very simple nature of the realization that the chronic depression that I had been diagnosed with and that I was told I would have for life by the psychiatric system was just made up. I'd created depression. I'd used my gift of thought and I'd created my own suffering. I was told I had an illness. I was told I suffered from an illness, and this illness is called depression. Now, when I woke up, I realized it's not an illness. It was a thought. Not one single doctor asked me what I'd been thinking a lot about lately. You feel this way, Dave. What are you thinking? And to see that, the simplicity of that was, well, it was revolutionary. It was so simple. And I didn't have to do it anymore. I don't have to keep living my life like this. I am creating my own suffering by the way I think about myself, by the way I think about people, by the way I think about work, by the way I think about money. I am creating all my own experiences. I'm creating my own suffering. And it's so ridiculously simple. And people go, "Oh, yeah, I know that. And the next minute they're slagging something off. No. When we really see it, when we really realize the magnitude of this truth, because it's not just, a change of thought. We've tried the change of thought thing many, many times in many different techniques and whatnot. It's the discovery. It's the realization that we create reality. Because that changes everything. When an individual discovers that they are the point from which reality is born. Okay, I'm not talking about the windows I'm looking at right here in this balloon that Lucia loves, which says congratulations on your wedding. We're not talking about that glass of water or the pen, but I only know of this stuff because of the experience. This is all an experience. Everything I see is a sight is an experience. Sound is an experience. We experience that. I experience the texture of this, how it feels. Its temperature, its solidity, its texture. I experience, Jenny, I experience the taste of the tea I've just been drinking. I experience the smells in the room. I experience every single sense I have and more. I experience. Everything's an experience. If you look closely, everything is an experience. Feeling is an experience. A thought is an experience. Reality is experience. Can't escape it. The scientists who are trying to figure out what reality is are using experience to try and figure out what reality is. But the only reality they ever get to experience is that they're experiencing within themselves. That's why scientists don't agree on many things. Why? Because they all see separate realities. Because every single human being on Earth experiences its own separate reality that it's creating. Wonderful, wonderful realization. Suddenly we go from victim, needing to change anything, to waking up and realizing it's all a joke. It's all a massive joke. I've done the whole thing to myself. Nobody can create a feeling for me. Nobody can dictate what I think. Many people try. They spend billions on adverts every single year. Why? Because they want to get into your mind. I bet Coca-Cola's on telly tonight. I bet I don't buy it tomorrow. I bet McDonald's is on some advert tonight. I bet I don't buy a McDonald's for the rest of my life. Nobody can make me think anything. Only I think my thoughts. Now, am I aware of every single thought that I experience? No. Nope. Thought isn't just our thinking, it's so much deeper. It's, if you want to call it the subconscious, what is the subconscious? The subconscious is thought that we are not consciously aware of. You could probably call that a belief. Something that no longer looks like a conscious thought. It just looks like true reality. So I used to be racist. I went through a phase in my life of being racist. I hold my hands up. I've been a racist man. And I saw this sector of society. If I saw them, I suddenly felt angry. Shouldn't be here. Shouldn't be here. It wasn't a conscious thought. It was just a, phew. But it was thought. It has to be thought. Because when I woke up, I was no longer racist. It wasn't a truth. This is the thing. We go in search of all our thoughts. This isn't about going in search of all our thoughts. Thought is an infinite thing. Thought is an infinite force, a force of infinite creation. There is no end to thought. If people want to start going searching for potentials within that infinite, go ahead. You'll never get to the end of it. You'll never get to the end of it. It's infinite. You'll never find it. The moment you find that, something else will crop up. Why? Because thought is infinite creative force. Wake up to the power of thought. Sid's message. Wake up to the power of thought. The power of thought is what everything is created from. Is what all experience, is what all feelings, is what all behavior, is what all our inventions, what all our activity is created from thought. Don't need to go anywhere to find that force. It's here and now. It's the only time it exists is in the here and now. Thought does not exist in time. Time exists within thought. Time is a thought. thought itself is not in time. Thought is everything now. And that's who and what we are. Infinite creative force.
I'll read the question.
Yeah.
If we don't know what the next thought will be that arises or the strength of it, I just wonder how we create our reality. And if you mean something else whenever you say we. That's a good question.
This is a good question. Thank you. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I think when we say, when I say we create our reality, it's not in a judgment way, because as you've said in the question, we don't know what thought's going to pop in next. But I think with a shift in awareness, a shift in consciousness, we start being more discerning with what comes in. I used to just act on whatever thought kind of came in that made the most sense, and I was blindly acting on thought. I had no awareness that I had any say in my life. I didn't know I was creating reality. I thought reality, a bit like you say, reality was out there and I was a kind of a victim of it, doing my best to kind of maneuver it. And suddenly to learn that the reality that we see and experience is a thought created one, it means we get some kind of separation or space or gap between what arises, thoughts that pop in, and what we take seriously and move and act upon. So once something has already come into our mind, we can't, people say change your thoughts. Well, once you've had a thought, it's automatically in the past. If we have an awareness that thought is a potential, it's not a truth, we don't take it as seriously. So suddenly thoughts that have popped into our mind that have, like for me, thoughts to do with food, eating, weight, those thoughts would come in and I would give them so much meaning and so much energy. They dominated, a good 8 or 9 years of my life. And learning about the principles at 23 years old, it gave me the opportunity it was like stepping out of myself and seeing what had been going on. I'd had a thought, I believed it to be true, and then I acted upon it. And then that thought became who I thought I was. It became my character. So suddenly, if that's my character, that's my personality, I have no say over it. So I got totally lost in a story, and the principles woke me up to the fact we're storytellers. We're not the story. We're dreamers. We're not the dream. And that insight, that shift in consciousness, that shift in awareness away from being fully wedded to all of my thoughts and who I thought I was and what was possible, allowed space and time for them to come and go, and other thoughts to come in. Well, what if this isn't who I am? Well, hang on a minute, I wasn't always like that. All this fresh thought started kind of flooding me because I had room. I had room for new, fresh ideas because I wasn't so interested and invested in the habitual stories and beliefs that have gone round and round and round. But if we don't know there's anything else, and if we truly believe that's who we are, we give it our full attention because we're trying to fix things. We're trying to fix our thinking because we all want to feel all right. We all just want peace of mind. So there is a deeper me, there is a deeper I, there is a deeper we. The 3 principles are a metaphor for whatever comes before. That's where everything arises from. And then we have this ability of awareness, consciousness, a gift of consciousness, of awareness, to then create and feel and be a reality. So when we start to see a separation between what's created, thoughts that pop in, and the fact there's a creator, there's a fact that there's a force or a source within us, like we identify more with that, and less with the story and the ego and the character and the personality and the creations, we find a freedom. We're not afraid of our own mind. We're not afraid of our own thoughts in the same way. We can get lost, but very quickly come back. Because with a shift in consciousness, everything looks different. I always remember someone saying the principles does the heavy lifting. The principles as a metaphor for fact, for force, for source. That awareness, that being the truth of something, everything else is reordered after it. So I saw the truth of what was being pointed to. I couldn't put it into words. It wasn't a conscious thing, but through seeing or glimpsing the truth of that, my thinking, my reality got reordered. And like Dave says, I can still have some of the same old habitual stuff come up, the same old boring stories. Sometimes they're too tempting and I jump on them for a bit. But once you see, it's like seeing how a magic trick has been done. Once you see, however good the trick is, however good the illusion is, once you know how it's done, you can never unknow. So you can be watching it going, whoa, like it still looks like magic. It still looks like that's actually what's happening. I know that that's not true and I actually know how it works. It's a very, very different situation to if we've seen someone being cut in half and we genuinely think that's what's happened. So it's a completely different relationship to the creations that we have. Really distracting.
I don't even know if this is even going to be any good.
I hope so.
Me too as well.
So I hope that speaks to what you're saying. I think Dave's got something he wants to add. They're light bulbs.
Yeah, the light bulb. Oh, thank you, love. This is probably going to be really crap. I've got absolutely no idea. But you mentioned if we don't know what the next thought will be that arises or the strength of it, I just wonder how we create our reality. And if you mean something else whenever you, or whether you mean something else whenever you say we. No, I mean you. I mean all of us as a collective, as a living being, because the principles applies to trees. The principles applies to a daisy, applies to an ant, applies to the fish. It applies to beings that don't have physical bodies. But imagine these are thoughts. And this power source here, let me do this a bit better. 1 second, bear with me. Right. Right. So these are thoughts, these light bulbs, thoughts. Come on, focus. Let's focus on Jenny. Can it focus any closer? There you go. Thoughts. These light bulbs. Okay. They're plugged in. Which light bulb has the most power? Ignore the words across the top. None of them, because I haven't turned any of them on. None of these light bulbs have any power because they're not turned on. Okay. What is it that really has the power? The light bulbs can exist. They do exist. There's light bulbs in this room. No, they're all working. Crap example. But in here, it's four light bulbs. Bearing in mind, this could be infinite light. This is infinite light bulbs we're talking about. And when I say infinite, contemplate that point. Infinite, infinite, no end. There's no infinite, forever, eternal. None of these bulbs have any power. The power lies in the electricity that powers the bulb. Okay, it's the bulb that has the most power is the one that we turn on. Now, this can sound all very kind of linear and production line and mechanical. Thank you, that's the word I'm actually looking for. And production line. It's not. This is spiritual. This is spiritual. But you asking your question, if we don't know what the next thought will be, arises, or its strength. No thought has any strength. They're like bulbs without the electricity turned on. The strength lies in the meaning or the thought, how much we believe into that thought, how much, and giving our attention and energy to that thought. That's why some appear louder and stronger, because we believe them. If you don't believe a thought, it has no power. And we all have thoughts that we don't believe. I don't know if anybody else ever experiences this, having stood on a very high building or a cliff or something, going, jump, go on, jump, 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 go on, jump. Julie's nodding. I think Anne's just nodded. You know, but we find those thoughts kind of stupid and almost humorous. But their consequences would be dire and catastrophic. But we don't buy into them. We don't believe those thoughts. Well, I know for a fact that Julie and Ange haven't, because they're still here like me.
Loved it. We've got a friend who told a story of she said her and her cousin, both of their parents never told them that they love them, like they're their mums. And my friend said to her, she knew her mum loved her because of her actions, and she just loved her back and just thought, oh, she finds it difficult to say. The cousin, it's created so much insecurity, so much thought, so much, like one thought and believing it to be true and taking it seriously has created a life of suffering. There's been so much suffering from that one thought. And I thought, how interesting, like you had the same situation, and the fact is the parent never said I love you. But what was created after that was, in one person, well, I know that you do because of I can feel it and the way that you are with me. The other one was, that's true, I'm unlovable. And then what that creates in our life. And you think, you can see the innocence in that. But once we get more discerning and have more awareness with thought, the ones that we put our attention on, the ones that we give life to, the ones that we switch on in your diagram.
Not very good, is it?
It's fine. I did make sense. I did make sense. But the ones that we give energy to, there's certain thoughts that pop into my head. And like, since coming across the principles, there's so much awareness around them. I'm like, if I feed this now, it's going to take me to an awful place.
Yeah.
I know it is. I've been there many, many times. But it just feels too compelling. And I'd go with it. And I think there seems to be humour, there seems to be humility, there seems to be compassion built into how we work as human beings, as how we function, because it's just that we don't doing it on purpose.
No.
And I think the difference for me and what I seem to see with people is that you get those eyes for learning. So you might give something loads of power and it feels like it's your everything. And then when you come back from it, you're like, whoa, that was a bit of a trip. That was a bit of a ride.
Mm.
And you learn something. And you grow in compassion for other people that do that.
Or you can look at the same thing. It's like, it's like I looked at Lucy when I mean, I didn't have much better on my plate. And it didn't. And I gave her this, probably a good third of it. I'm like, there you go. You have that.
And
she
you've
just,
even cleaned it off, so it didn't have like
yeah,
any
because I know she'll
dirty-
kick off if it's got balsamic vinegar on it. So I cleaned it off and passed it over to her, and she just picked it up, looked at it, hurtled it back at me. And it's I was pissed off. I was like, that was my bit of cheese. I was really looking forward to eating that with my jacket potato, but I gave it to you.
It landed on the floor afterwards.
And then Bilbo ate it. Right. And then and now it's like I look back at it and it's funny. Do you know what I mean? And at the time I'm like, oh God, here we go. Lucy, ungrateful little shit, throwing my bloody best bit of meal away. And you ate half my salmon. You know, it's like now I look back at it and it's funny. You see, it's all temporary. Notice this. Reality is temporary. Reality itself isn't temporary. Reality is permanent. It's eternal. But the flavor of it, the experience of it, the form that it is taking is temporary. It's all temporary. You know, we're not all you don't always live in bad feelings. Even when I had depression, there were times when I came out of depression. And do you know what I thought when I came out of depression? Now you're really going mad. Oh my God, you feel slightly happy today. You are mental. But I had no awareness into the notion, that reality changes. Reality naturally left alone will return to this buoyant state, this natural state, a homeostatic state of being neutral, peaceful. What is peaceful? It's neutrality. It's that without judgment. You know, I've said this so many times, this story about when I went walking past a primary school after being working in prisons. And these little kids stood outside, 4 or 5 years old, all by themselves, 3 of them. Was it 3 or 4? I can't remember now.
You normally say 3.
Was it 3? 3 it'd have been then. And the first thought ran into my head the moment I saw them was, I wonder what they're worth on the black market. And then bursting out laughing. I mean, but 2 years before, I remember driving home with this little voice coming in my head saying, you know, you've changed, Dave. 2 years ago, you'd have worried about that thought. You'd have taken that thought so seriously. You'd have thought that thought meant something about you, who you were becoming. Are you a pedo? Are you a child? You're going to become a child trafficker. You're going to Google it. You know, I'd have had all this thinking, all this judgment, and I certainly wouldn't dare tell you lot about it. Do you know what
Still
I mean?
makes me blink, actually.
Good, because I don't think you blink enough. But no, and then it's like, it was a thought. It was just a silly, stupid thought. It had no power. The children remained, as far as I'm aware, if they did go missing, it wasn't because of me. They remained on the street. You know, no harm was done. And this is the thing. To me, this conversation, I really want to try and see if I can articulate this. This conversation is not about getting rid of thoughts. This isn't a conversation about thoughts, in fact, full stop. It's about thought. Forget thoughts. Forget your thoughts. Your thoughts are a distraction. Your thoughts are like walking out into the Sahara Desert, picking up a grain of sand and going, that one, this one. Is this one real? What about that one? Is that one real? Is that one the truth? Is that one the truth? Keep going. Keep going, right? Sieve the whole Sahara Desert. Which one's the truth? Which one's the true grain of sand? Which one's the real grain of sand? Which one? They're all sand. Which is the real wave on an ocean? Forget the waves. Forget the grains of sand. Become aware of the Sahara Desert itself. Become aware of the ocean. The waves are a distraction. The grains of sand are a distraction. Our thinking, looking, if anybody's hearing this is about your thinking, we've called our company Freedom Thinking. Forget it. Right? Forget it. The only reason I chose that name was because all the good names are gone. .co.uk. Freedom Thinking it is. Fact. Freedom is truth. Freedom is the truth. Everybody's free. Doesn't matter what you think. It's too late. Forget the thinking. Don't worry about the thinking. Don't worry about the thinking. What we're trying to point people towards is there is this infinite force from which your thinking arises. It's called thought. It's called consciousness. It's called mind. It's life itself. It is the energy. It's an energy of infinite frequency filled, infinite potential energy. It's nothing. It's nothing that creates everything. Everything is made of nothing. And that nothing creates everything. Nothing and everything are the same thing. We are nothing. We are nothing. But we think we are something and then we appear as such. Children don't come in with concepts. They live as nothing, but they live. They experience. But they don't experience the same level of judgment that we experience. So they tend to live a more transient, natural, buoyant state of life. Doesn't mean they don't go in and out of all these different feelings. Of course they do. They see her goes in and out of all. She's a bit too old now, but when she was first born, she had all these feelings she felt, and she cried one minute and then she laughed. Didn't hold on to the crying. She didn't hold on to the laughter. She just experienced via thought. Whatever thought was bringing her in that moment is what she experienced. We're pointing to the power of thought. We want people to wake up and realize there is this gift, this infinite force called thought. It is within you. It is who and what you actually are. It's within me. We're creating an experience of life. We're talking big picture. We're not looking at the minutiae. The minutiae is the details. The devil's in the details. It's where suffering exists. Hell is created from the details, our thinkings, our thoughts. All the domain of the distraction away from the nature of who and what we are. The power lies in thought. Everything we experience is coming from thought. What is a dream? What is a dream that I've started to experience more vividly lately? It's thought. How could it be anything else? It's thought creating a reality. Whilst I'm fast asleep in bed, what did I experience? So a woman on a train. Can't really remember the ins and outs of it, but it was so vivid. But the dreams that I experience, I can experience some really scary dreams and I'm safely tucked up in bed, but my body doesn't know the difference. You know, I'll probably start making groaning noises or something, and I'll probably my heart will start to pound. I'll release adrenaline and cortisol, and I'll become, my breathing will pick up. I'll wake up. I'll wake up from this thought-created reality, and we call it a dream. Now, sages throughout the years have called this the dream of life. The dream of life. Everybody on earth is dreaming their own reality. It's the same process in play. The same process that creates our nighttime state of reality is exactly the same process that creates our daytime state of reality. There aren't two processes going on within us. There's only one process taking place. Consciousness and thought creating reality, creating feelings, creating emotions, creating experience. When I say experience, I'm not talking circumstance. Circumstance is something that happens outside of us. Experience is how we even know circumstance exists. Whatever we are dreaming about the circumstances, how it appears, whether that be positive, negative, neutral. And what we're starting to discover as a species is that we are starting to wake up and realize we have a say over how our experience looks. But first, we have to wake up and realize it's an experience. The whole of life is an experience from birth till death. It's an experience. How could it be anything else? How could you experience anything outside of experience? Depression, experience. Happiness, experience. Falling in love, experience. Falling out of love, experience. Holding your first child, experience. Losing a loved one, experience. Going to work, experience. Cooking the tea, experience. Doing the ironing, experience. Eating your food, experience. Smoking your cigarette, experience. It's all an experience. The future, experience. The past, experience. Now, experience. It's all an experience. Does experience come from outside of us? I'm talking experience, not what we're experiencing. I'm talking experience. Has experience ever taken place outside of us? No. How could it? It's always going on within us. What we experience is our story of circumstance. 99% of the time. Sometimes we're just experiencing crap we're making up, perhaps 99% of the time is quite a high statistic. We're just making it all up. We make it all up. We just make it all, it's all made up. Literally, it's all made up. Who's the good person? Who's the bad person? Who's the right one? Who's the wrong one? It's all made up. I don't know, when I went to prison, I thought it was the worst thing in the world and it was going to ruin my life. It actually turned out to be one of the greatest gifts. Because I made up the idea it was going to be the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life. And now I've made up the story. No, it wasn't actually. It was actually one of the greatest gifts. It taught me a lot. But it is all made up. I could hold on to the story of prison and live it out as though it was whatever. It's all made up. Well, if it wasn't made up, we'd all see the same reality. If it wasn't all made up, we wouldn't have a need for a language. The only reason we have language is so that one reality can communicate with another reality, and we can have conversations and compromise and work together and fall out or whatever goes on. Go to war with one another. Pick a side. Pick an identity. Do whatever the hell you want. If it wasn't all made up, we'd all see the same reality and there'd be nothing to talk about. There wouldn't be war. There wouldn't be any need for cooperation. Because reality would be reality. We'd all be just these drones that just all see the same thing. But that we know that's not true. We all like different music. We all like different food preferences. We all find different people attractive. We all like different places. I like Scotland. Jenny likes hot places. We all have our preferences because we're all making it up. I can go to a hot place and have the most wonderful time. I've got Scotland and sometimes have a bit of a miserable time. Sometimes I look at you and just think, I'm the luckiest man on the planet. And sometimes I look at you and go, fucking hell. I know you don't do that about me, though.
Is that hard? I wanted to put it out there now. If whoever wants to stay for this, please do. At 5 to 9, I was going to ask people. For newer people, we used to do like Dave said, we're not religious, but we used to sort of do a healing or a prayer at the end of group. And tonight, I was going to ask if people had time to stay on from about 8:55 till 9 to healing to my sister's dog Charlie Brown. He's had to have a blood transfusion today. And he's not in a good way with himself at all. And
he's lovely.
He's 8 years old. He's my nephew's best friend. The 12-year-old nephew. He's part of the family. So I was going to ask people. So it's still a little way away. But if people want to stay on, we're going to do a prayer and a bit of. You'll probably talk it through at the beginning, and then just get people to visualize him well. So anyone that wanted to stay on for that, but if you need to go, then
no
that's
problem.
absolutely fine.
You get yourself gone.
And I can
Thanks,
I can show a picture of him. I'll pop a picture up when we do it, so people can see what he looks like. Thank you.
Yeah, the difference is in the light of awareness. I don't know what wise person once said that, but they were right. You go and see a psychiatrist, and they'll talk to you all about all your thoughts, and you will spend thousands of pounds with those people. I'm not knocking these people, because these people are wonderful people, but their system is flawed because it's trying to fix the illusion of reality by studying the illusion of reality. If you want to fix the illusion of reality, become aware it's an illusion. Don't think it's real. If you think it's real, you're going to stay stuck in the illusion. You got to wake up and realize it. And I'm trying, Jenny and I both trying to point to you to using different examples of how it is an illusory state of being. I mean, like before, it looked real that Lucy was ungrateful little 2-year-old shit, throwing my best bit of frigging food on my plate away. And now it's funny. If it was real, that state of being, if it was fact, if it was the truth, I would still have to feel it now, because it couldn't change, because it would be the truth. But the fact it's changed, and I can even see her face, the cheeky little sod.
When we had our Christmas meal in the north last week, and you actually missed it, so it wasn't even in your awareness. You didn't know it happened. But your dad had made the best roast potatoes, and Lucia says she doesn't like potato at the moment. Well, she says she's never liked it. So Dave was like, why didn't you have this? Because she was asking for the same of something else. So he put the best one of your potatoes on her plate. And I just saw her get it, pick it up, look at you, and then just chuck it to the side really fast, could throw. And no one else saw it, which was disappointing, but I was absolutely cracking up. Catch me in a different mood, I'd be like, for goodness sake, there's more things I have to clear up. So the same circumstance, different reaction. We've got everyone on this call will have the experience of feeling something that feels like it's going to last forever and it's going to kill us, it's going to break us. And then at some point feeling differently about it and seeing it differently, maybe even being able to laugh at it. We've had the experience of a circumstance happening and us thinking it's hilarious, and then it happening another time and us finding it devastating. Like we've seen that there has to be something else going on rather than the circumstance, rather than the situation. There has to be something else at play in our experience of it. And I think that's the beautiful thing. You just get to wake up and go, wow, this is really interesting. I'd been fascinated by my story and my character and studied it for 10 years when I came across the principles. And suddenly I was like, what on earth is life? What is going on? How does this all happen? What is life? What is happening? Like Lucia asked me today, because I said, sorry, can you say that to me again? Mummy had a really busy mind then. I wasn't listening. And she went, what's a mind? And it just floored me for a moment, because it's like, and then I couldn't think of anything to say. And I was like, I said, I'll talk to you about that later. But
that probably be the truest definition of mind you could have.
Yeah.
Silence.
Just like, it's just coming out of her mouth.
It's not a concept.
It's like, what is mind? Wow, that is a really deep question. And actually, you have not, we think she understands so much of what we're saying, where they're just words. Like you asked her the other day, she asked you, what's that on the back of a book? And you said Chris Packham. And she went, Mummy, it's just packing. So much of what he said is totally lost. Dan, you've got your hand up.
It's a bit off topic, but I will stay for that last 5 minutes.
Oh.
I just need to go and take my dogs for a week because one of them's looking like he's going to cock his leg on my bed. So
Get him out.
I'll be back in a sec.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, we're talking about, you know, the way human beings change, really change, is via insight. That's how human beings really change. You know, an addict will never change until they have the insight that they want to have a different life. Now, they can tell themselves, oh, I need to quit, I need to quit, I need to quit, I need to quit. I don't know if anybody in the screen's experienced that. I need to quit, I need to quit, I need to quit. But then one day, this little voice or this realization shows up in their consciousness, and it's like, no, you're done now. It's over. This is going to kill you, or whatever it be. And when that comes insightfully, it comes with a different quality than an intellectual thought. The intellectual thought doesn't really come with anything substantial, but the insight will come with this movement within ourself that drives us forward in our life. Now, insight cannot be manufactured. It's just something that just takes place. It takes place when the time is right for that individual. So you can't go searching. You can go searching all you want for insights, but it's fruitless. The thing about an insight is you don't know it exists.
I think you can be open to it.
That's different.
Yeah, I think you can't manufacture it, but you
That's
can
right.
be open. And I think when we're less attached to what we think we know, we are more open.
Yeah.
So insight is more likely.
True, totally true.
And I think I used to like, I remember Roger Mills saying on that first course that I went on, it's like when you try and chase a butterfly, you can't catch it. When you stop and you're still, it often will just land on you. And I think it was just, we chase our thought, we chase our mind, we chase insight.
We chase our ideals.
But when we stop, often something will just find us. I think that's how supposedly Buddha found enlightenment. When he kind of gave up searching and looking, it found him. And I think that's the...
Yeah.
So I think an open mind, being interested in this kind of conversation, or being interested in life, being interested in, like, I'm going for a walk with you when we first got together. I was like, I'm so much more on a walk when I'm with you than when I've gone with other people, because I could have done a whole walk and not seen anything. But I noticed for you, you were really on the walk, and that presence did something for me, because I realised how often I was just still thinking about my insights, or thinking about the principles, or thinking about, whereas actually there's something about just being where you are, present with it, again, I think opens up to learning and insight, and
Totally.
because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. It's all around us. Remember, I think lots of wise people have said, truth isn't hiding from us. It's hidden in plain sight. It's there for us. It's in songs, it's in movies, it's... Divyesh.
Hi, and that's a lovely conversation you're having and we're having. Just what you just said about Roger Mills saying about the butterfly. Just last week, we were having a conversation in Psychology Has It Backwards with Christine Heath. And one of the things which struck me, which had never struck me before, was she said, and this is why I just call it resonance, because it's my wisdom finding some light lit in the conversation like we do here. And she said, we were talking about what is this damn good feeling everybody talks about? What is this from this follow the feeling? What the fuck? And she said something. She goes, the good feeling doesn't come from you, Divyesh. It comes to you. And it struck a different note. It's because in my perception anyway, what I'm understanding to this day, it might change later, that the good feeling coming from me is a product of personal thinking. I mean, it's sort of like my own thinking. It's a bit like, the willful, I will go out and be grateful today. That doesn't hit with me. Versus something like you just mentioned, your walk with Dave, and you go, oh, that a conversation out of nowhere, and you realize that my little self was out of the way, and something much more beautiful came out of my mouth. So it's a good feeling comes to you. I'm sort of like it's parallel to that. It's not from my ego. It's a happening. It's an instant. It's a realization without me interfering with it. That's fair. I'm just with that at the moment. Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to question that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything comes through us that we experience.
Yeah.
To say that something comes to you would be to suggest that there is something other than singularity,
Mm.
which would make God plus one, which doesn't exist. No, you see, but I suppose it depends, and I think I may have heard something in what you were saying also. It depends on what we're identifying ourselves as. Now, are we identifying with the ego, with the intellect? Because if we're identifying with the ego and the intellect, you would go, yes, it has come from somewhere else. It has come from something else, which would be a true statement. It hasn't come from the intellect, but it has still come from us. You see, one of the greatest things that we can wake up to as a human being is the realization there is no separation, which would instantaneously eliminate the notion that any feeling could come from somewhere else other than our own self. You see, what we're actually getting in, what we're talking about in good feelings, if you stop thinking of thought as thinking, let's forget the thinking word, just forget thinking. Let's call it frequency potentials. A thought is a frequency potential. That frequency potential, there are infinite frequency potentials, but they all lie within our being. We are infinite frequency potentials, and every single thing we draw forth is an aspect of ourself. Every single thought, feeling, experience is an aspect of the infinite force within ourself as to who and what we actually are. So when we start to have these nicer feelings, what we're actually accessing is higher frequency states of being that are constantly lying within ourself. They're always there. They're not something separate from ourself. This is what we're starting to wake up to. This is what we're trying to point out to people, that there is everything you have, everything you experience is an aspect of your self. It is a creation of yourself, but it is not yourself. In the same way, a wave is an aspect of the ocean, but it is not the entire ocean. It is a creation of the ocean, and we're pointing to ocean, not wave. What it sounded like you were talking about there was all these waves are getting an experience from somewhere else. But what we're trying to guide people towards is the realization that no, you are these higher feeling states. You are these phenomenal loving states. They are our being. They're this the closer we get to love, the closer you get to the realization of singularity, which is the realization of what people term God. That's the word, that's the noise given to that term, or source as a Hindu. You know, we get closer to source. The source of ourself is love. Why is it love? Well, it just is. It's love. I don't know why it's love. Perhaps it's more what we identify love as that seems to be the tripping up point at that point. But love is the unifying force. When people fall in love, they become unified, unit, singular, one.
Mm.
Okay, so there is no 1 + 1 in anything. Universe, singular, one verse. Okay, so when it said that it is coming given to you, I think was, yeah, that given to you is yourself accessing those higher dimensional frequencies within our being.
Yeah.
That's what that is. It's not coming from outside of ourselves. It's not something that is separate from ourselves. It is entirely an aspect of ourself, but it's closer to the true aspect of the self. You see, the thing about these lower frequency states is the moment you start going into, this is all made up. A wave is water. No matter whether it's a big wave or a little wave, whether it's a tsunami or a ripple, it's always water. When you start going into these lower frequency states, they start to becoming more dualistic. And duality is the notion that there is two gods, two sources, positive and negative. And when we end up in that state, we end up in the state of, you see, the thing about fear is love requires nothing to exist in order for it to exist. Love requires nothing else. Love just is. Now, fear requires something to be afraid of. You see, I don't experience fear unless I am looking at a circumstance and going, oh, that looks scary, or they look scary, or the future's scary, or the past is scary. The fear needs something to play with, something other than itself, which is where we are, like Jenny said just before, the further we go into suffering, the further into unreality we have entered. You see, and so the closer we go into love, the further we go into love, the more into unification we've entered, the more our being has identified itself with singularity. And in doing so, we start to feel the truth of that, and it feels beautiful because truth is beautiful. And like Sid Banks said, there is only one truth. There is only one truth, not two, one. And truth lies before the creation of reality. Truth is something that will be experienced by all beings, some in this lifetime in physicality and some when we leave. But it'll be experienced, and every single one of us has already experienced it. We know it. That's why we're all searching for it, because we know that there is this truer state of being. And that's why we're all here today. It's a conversation around the true state of being. So I personally can't see how anything can be experienced from outside of ourselves because it doesn't exist. And it would do away with the notion that the infinite notion of energy. It would do away with the infinite notion, the notion of infinite creative force. But I don't know, I look around at this world and I don't see two the same of anything. Not when I really look closely. Everything's different. Everyone's different. Every insect. Everything's different. Because it's infinite. But I really appreciate you bringing that up, Div, because I think that's a really beautiful thing to highlight.
Yeah, I think what she might have been referring, in my understanding, is it's just like what you're saying. It's from within the source, or whatever you want to call,
Yeah.
except it's not concocted by my head.
Nice.
That's
which,
it.
which is still the same source.
Yeah.
It's the same source playing the game of Divyesh,
Yeah.
which is actually the same source that's playing the game of Dave, playing the game of Jenny, Joseph, Ange, Louise, Dan, Lucia, Kendra, Tina, Jackie, my mother and father. And whoever else is watching this, it's playing the same game. It's playing the game of people. Like Sid said, there's only one mind. We're all one mind. The universe is mental, is the first Hermetic principle. It's all thought. All right, thanks, Div. I'm going to bring this to an
Thank you.
end. I just want to say just at the end, if anybody wishes to make a donation, you can contact us. You can donate to PayPal at info@freedomthinking.co.uk. If you want to get in touch with us, info@freedomthinking.co.uk. Go on our website, freedomthinking.co.uk, and anything else?
YouTube channel.
YouTube channel,
But if you're
Freedom
watching
Thinking.
it, it's
You probably already know that. I'm Dave Ellery. This is Jenny Ellery. Thanks so much for watching, and thank you everybody for being here. Much appreciated.